welcome back to Reviving an Idler. Yep, it has been a very long time, a year and a half in fact, so thank you very much for your patience. But I'm back. In many ways, we never really left. We carried on working through all this time, just much slower. But for any new subscribers, or just for anybody who's forgotten what we're all about, Reviving Idler is a story of a boat. Well, actually it's a story of a promise. My promise to this boat to put her back on the water. It's a blog and a diary of the real world stumbles and bumbles and the learnings that you're likely to encounter if a wooden boat is in your future. None of it's unusual. Well, except the COVID bit and the economic cluster F that followed. Or Brexit's impact on materials. Yeah, those things were pretty unusual. And it's been a bit of a tough time. But the ins and outs, the intricacies, the new rot patches, the problems, the tools, they're all pretty common. Well, who's Adler? Well, Adler was built in 1940 in Greater Wakering, which is a little town on the north coast of the Thames estuary, down in England, not far from London. Being built in the middle of a war in 1940, like I say, it's very difficult to determine what she was built for. Now the honest answer is, I just don't know. There are a few clues left in her hull that lead me to question that she was built as a yacht in the first place. I think she was very likely a workboat. Her hull, for a start, is very heavily constructed for a little boat, which means that either the yard was used to building working boats, or that she was intended as that. It certainly doesn't make sense that she was built as a yacht during the war. That said, from reading some of the books by John Leather, I've learned of a habit of the day, particularly the early 1920s and earlier, where working paid skippers would have their own small boats, roughly the same size as Adler and style, that they could both work and sail for fun in their spare time when they weren't racing the bigger yachts for the Kaiser and whatnot. So Adler could well have been something along those lines. Me personally, well, I think she was a workboat. I think she fits the description of a lot of the cockle boats and some of the long-lining vessels that frequented the creeks down in that area. She could take the ground quite happily in mud berths. She's heavily constructed, and I think that she wasn't decked originally, based on the structure of her deck beams forward and whatnot. So I think that she was a working boat, at least in the very early days. Either way, Walter Wiggins' yard evolved to become Colin Wiggins and Bill Sutton's yard, and they continued to build boats all the way up into the 1950s, 60s and 70s, embracing GRP and fiberglass in later stages. So it's a long established boat building heritage area, and I'd be keen one day to take her back there. But first of all, we have to get her floating.
So jumping back to the frames and the floors, one of the techniques I've been using to actually get them shaped up and fitted correctly is the method shown in some of Ian Smith's boat building videos. Ian is an absolute fantastic seasoned boat builder, and he puts a lot of excellent material out there. So if you haven't seen Ian Smith boat building, it's worth checking out. He's an Australian chap down there, and he's doing some amazing stuff, written some excellent books as well. Well worth checking out. Now, the method he explains in his videos and his book is a technique normally used for finer fitting of components or parts, such as knees, or in this case floors. Not normally used to quite the extent that I've been using it. And the reason for that is, as you'll remember from previous videos, there was some sort of weird Bermudan factor happening at the bottom of this boat, and I don't know if the boat's moving or if there's something happening as I'm taking the measurements one day and the next day they seem to be different. But I've tried a couple of techniques to try and get accurate templates to lay down and cut out these floors, and every single one of them has failed so far. Such as using the joggle stick method, using cardboard templates. I have tried a few things to try and get this to work, and there seems to be something wrong at the end of each one. It seems to be a problem I have to overcome each time. So what I've started doing is basically taking a very loose cardboard template and then laying that down onto a lump of oak, loosely cutting out approximately what size it's going to be, and then I just start laying it into the boat, and it's going to sit a good inch or something off the actual keel, and I'll eventually sort of wiggle it down to size. And the method utilises chalk, and what you do is you basically cover the side of the planking, in this case, in chalk, and as long as you've got some good marks, so you've got replicatable results, i.e. you can put the floor that you're trying to fit into exactly the same place every single time, when you lay your template into the boat, it'll leave little chalk marks where it's touching. You can then use whatever tool you need. In my case, I'm using the grinder because it gets a lot of material removed very quickly, and I am trying to remove a lot of material quickly to get this to fit right in nice and snug. You can then grind off the chalk marks, repeat the process, grind off the chalk marks, repeat the process, grind off the chalk marks, until eventually it just kind of settles down into its correct position, and it should be absolutely mirror perfect using this method. It is, like everything in this boat, long-winded and time-consuming, but it is so far giving me the most reliable result on this floor. This is the first floor I've actually tried this technique with, and it has so far worked fantastically. We'll cut to a little musical montage, and I'll let you see exactly how this process goes down. There's no point in me trying to talk through it because it is loud and dusty, but hopefully you'll get the idea of what I'm talking about from what you see coming up.
Well, as you can see from all these pictures and videos, we've done a lot of work already, but it's really only the easy work that's been done. We've got hold of her, we've stripped her down, we've established what's needing done, where all the problems are, and what we actually need to do, ordered and received materials, and we've started work stabilising the hull so we can start progressing towards rebuilding her. All the station frames are needing some work. All the intermediate frames have been replaced thus far. We've started working on the floors, and I hope to have that done and finished shortly. The next step is going to be strengthening up the deck by putting the deck structure back on. Then I can have a look at the bow. And once we have the bow sorted out, the stem post sorted out, because there's a few rot patches in there, then I'll be in a position where we can lift her up. She'll be strong enough, and I can drop the keel out. Now, the keel has some work needing done on it, but it may or may not be a write-off. We just have to wait and see what happens when we drop it. And that's going to be a big question mark over the project at that point. However, I would have thought, given the time and energy and money I've already put into her that nothing can stop me finishing her now. That, however, will be many, many, many moons away from this point now. The first thing we need to do is start looking at restarting the project.
So with all of that in mind, I think it's pretty evident that this is going to become a long-term project, and this is simply not going to do. So this is all going to be coming down today, hopefully, and I have all the materials sitting in the workshop there to give ourselves a proper hard roof, like the actual workshop. It's going to have a proper bitumen roof, solid frame as well, and then there'll be double doors here, or at least a large door here leading into this area, so we've got an extra lay down space, maybe for bins or whatever. It also allows me to stand in front of the boat at the bow, allowing me to sight down the centre line of the boat, which we didn't have the ability to do before. Over the other side, the front side, again, big double doors, and also along the side of the shed that faces into the rest of the garden. I'm not going to clad it all the way down to the wall, so there'll be fresh air coming in. And I hope that some of these changes will, one, it'll be a nicer place to work, won't be the same condensation on the roof, won't have the same risks of snowfall, etc., adding weight. I'll be able to gutter off the join, so I won't have the same drip issues inside the shed, hopefully. Likewise the other side. Going back into this raised area of grass here, be able to build a retaining wall as well, keep some of that mud out of the bottom. Altogether just make it a much more temperature sustainable environment, better, bigger working environment as well, without all this plastic. Well, I've somehow managed to wrap the boat up again. Bit rough and ready, but the whole point is just to keep the rain out. Next job is we're going to be digging out all these stones and building up a retaining wall. Quite a few stones to come out. It was a good 3 to 4 feet. The corner post for the new building is going to be where that iron bar is, more or less.